tell you a story about two people, Junius Williams, Gus Heningburg. One was a militant and one was a moderate. Now, I don't have to tell all of you which one was the militant. But Gus and I got along just fine. Now, usually the role of the moderate is to resolve conflict. Militant finds the problem, creates the conflict, tries to resolve it. The role of the moderate is to speak for the militant, to interpret to others what the militant is supposed to be saying, to negotiate, to moderate. Well, when I came along, I went to some nice schools. I didn't need anybody to interpret for me. I knew how to talk. My mom and dad had paid for that. I didn't want anybody to negotiate for me because I could negotiate for myself, and I sure wasn't going to be appeased very easily. But yet, Gus and I got along because he wasn't quite like that. And I'm going to tell you why. There was the medical school fight that you've heard mentioned a couple of times already. Harry Wheel and I were chairman of that negotiating committee. We were negotiating for ourselves. But this man named Gus Heningburg with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund came along and gave us the technical assistance we needed. Before that even happened, we needed a lawyer, and so he helped convince the NAACP Legal Defense Fund to become our lawyers in fighting this medical school that wanted to take 150 acres, and we said, you can't have that. So Gus was there behind the scenes helping us to negotiate this agreement, which became the template for the construction affirmative action that you've heard Gus get credit for so well. This particular agreement said you're going to have to hire so many. We needed to have, we said 50% of the apprentices and 1/3 of the journeymen had to be minority. At that point, it was black and Puerto Rican. So Gus helped us fashion that agreement. Later on, Gus was responsible for helping George Fontaine to set up a group called the Newark Construction Trades Training Corporation, which trained at least 600 black and Puerto Rican men, we didn't have women in construction at that time, to get the kind of experience they need to get the union books. Now you have a workforce that is just now retiring because of the work that was done by NCTTC with the help of Gus Heningburg. So you see, Gus was not a usual moderate, but we had other things in common. We both came from the South. We liked to tell jokes. We both married pretty women. Look at these kids here. That's not all Gus's DNA. But there was something else about Gus. You see, Gus liked to hang out with the militants. We had a group. My group was called the Newark Area Planning Association, or NAPA. And every Thursday, NAPA had what we call the Napa Soul Sessions. And that's when all the militant groups would come around and we would sit there and tell stories and music, and we had a special drink. And Gus would come down to enjoy some of that hospitality sometime. I can tell a story. I can clean it up. And we mixed this drink in a garbage can, which we kept clean, just so you won't wonder what it was. And this drink had a Kool-Aid base and a lot of ice, but into it we would put whatever kind of liquor we had at that particular time. It was bourbon, scotch, gin, whatever folks had, we put it in there. Now, you could be fooled by this drink because of the sweet taste. As a matter of fact, that's how it got its name, because people would take that drink, take a little bit of it, and say, that sure is a And so that's what we call the drink. Well, you see, Gus was all right with us if he could hang like that. Now, some of y'all in this room right now used to come and drink that drink, so don't be messing with me. But there was one time that Gus even crossed the line and became militant himself. And that was the airport struggle. We had the medical school agreement, remember now. That medical school agreement became the template. And so Gus wanted to make sure that the airport people had a similar affirmative action agreement with respect to hiring and also with respect to bringing in black contractors and service people. But they wouldn't budge. So Gus had some very special people in his employ at that time. He had his own militants. A guy by the name of Arthur Bowers. Arthur Bowers was part of the black organizations of students that took over Conklin Hall at Rutgers. Arthur Bowers was his secret weapon. Folks don't know this. This is maybe the first time some of you downtown folks ever hear this story. Gus sent Arthur Bowers out to the airport to do something. Now, it's really unclear what happened after that. The more raunchy the story got, the more Gus enjoyed it. I don't know what Gus's real role was, but the real important thing, this was the highlight, because you see, militants and moderates, you really don't get the two working together too much. You don't really get to moderate your own militancy. Gus was hired by the Port Authority to monitor the agreement based on the trouble he created. Never before has that happened in Newark since that happened then. Now, as I have gotten older, I have come to appreciate Gus even more. There are two things you need to have when you are a militant, and those two things are good legs. You have to be able to run. You have to be able to escape the Ku Klux Klan, the police, the White Citizens Council, whatever it is, you got to be able to move. So you can't stay militant forever. But there's another reason why, and that's because, like Gus, we realize that you can solve problems in a lot of different ways sometimes. And I think Gus was a model for me to make me understand that. I'm going to miss him. I miss him all the time. I look up at that picture, that stern face, just before he was about to burst out in a big grin and tell a long story. Gus, we love you, but God loved you best. God bless.